so we have just talked about the drones and all these things. Another major threat perception is basically people are talking about the cyber war. Basically dismantling our electrical grid system, like the water supply system, all kinds of civilian infrastructure could be disrupted by disrupting the communication, this thing. So how do you view these kind of challenges?
I think the cyber threat is far more serious than what the drones are going to do to us.
Okay.
The cyber threat allows, among other capabilities, the ability to possibly deny that you even attacked. In an interconnected world like ours, where everything is now on the internet and is networked with each other, right from your fridge to your microwave oven to your car to your electrical air conditioners, everything in the house is now linked together, and it's linked together with so many other systems all over the world.
Yeah, disrupting the grid.
Our railways, our electrical power systems, our nuclear stations, everything is the internet, interleaven. And therefore, unless we take care of cyber security threats, unless we make positive air gaps between crucial systems to make sure that nothing which is malicious or ill thought of gets into our system and clogs it and prevents it from doing its function.
How we are prepared for that?
We have thought towards it, because after all, we are getting more and more digitized. As you are aware, India is the country where it's got the maximum digital payments in the world today, even more than the USA and China combined. I mean, that is the sort of driver behind which our digital economy is growing. And therefore, it is very important that we should have thought these through. And I'm sure there are enough and more qualified people who are looking at it very closely. India, as you are aware, is a software powerhouse. We have developed our capabilities over the years, right from the Y2K bug period and before that, and today to a place where we are now in a scenario where we are well known all over the world for our ability to leverage information technology to our advantage. And this has been very clearly visible in the last 2-3 years, even during COVID, where we put up such good systems in place to make sure that we manage to cover all our people all over the world, wherever they were, our Indian citizens. We got them sort of strung together, and I think we have worked wonders. Our challenge today is to continue doing that, and not only that, exploit cyber's advantages and disadvantages to our advantage. We are somewhere there. I wouldn't say we are in the top, even top 5, or in the top 10 at this time, but I think we have got a focus towards it. And I will only leave it at that to say that, yes, we have identified the problem, and we are looking forward to making it not only a problem, it will become to our advantage. I'll leave it at that.
See, our strategic thinking is very important. We are coming very close to USA. We have a strategic ally in the but there are two schools of thinking, especially strategic thinkers. US is not a dependable strategic ally. Our credentials, India relationship historically nalladalla. But historical legacy, the world has changed. We have to change with the world and accept the new reality and all these things. As a veteran Air Force person, how do you view these emerging scenarios? Is it advantageous for India to be very close with the US, or we should have a very cautious approach in that?
Historically, if you go back and look at the past, the last 100 years, say from World War II and beyond that, the last 80 years of history, those who have been with the United States have done fairly well for themselves. Every nation which has gone that way, be it the Western world with the NATO, or be it South Korea, or be it Japan, what is very clearly visible is those who have aligned themselves to the United States and its policies. It's a democracy after all. and we are naturally tend to be inclined towards a democracy. For India, any nation which is not a democracy does not sort of make sense to it, for it to sort of get close to. Given that fact, USA looks after its own interest, and we as Indians should rightfully look at our own interest only, and that's clearly visible today. Despite what USA tells us, when it suits us, we buy Russian oil, which is clearly very pragmatic and makes a lot of sense, because we require that oil to fulfill our oil security, our energy security requirements, and we do what we have to do. But at the same time, we do not antagonize United States, because we do believe, as a large democracy, as a huge economic power, USA, siding with USA and going its direction, while at the same time maintaining arm's length distances from the rest of the world, is, I think, so good policy. We are not in the enemy camp with the Russians, neither are we in an enemy camp with the Americans. We are, I would believe, friends of both. And I think that is to our advantage, because it makes sense to Indians and not to the others. In an ideal world, we should be non-aligned. But that is not practical. We have to see who are our friends, who are our enemies. And we have to take a call which suits us and not them. And I think that's where what we are doing today, and what we have been doing for the last 10, 15 years. We have been very pragmatic. We have taken decisions which are, I think, in our interest.
So what do you mean to say that we have to be very pragmatic and treat the issues on a case-to-case basis?
Absolutely. We have a very close relationship with Russia today. We have a very close relationship with the USA today. Russia is the only country which has given us nuclear submarines on lease in the past, and they have been a bedrock of our security policy right from 1971 and beyond, and even after that. At the same time, we have grown close to the US itself, and I think this is something which is rather unique. India finds itself as a friend of both large powers who are trying to pull apart. I mean, I think that is something which is uniquely that has happened. And for that, I should thank our leadership and our capability in this domain, that we have managed for the last 20, 30 years to be friends with both sides of the world.
നമ്മുടെ ഇന്ത്യൻ സ്ട്രാറ്റജിക് തിങ്കിങ്ങിലെ the constant thing is from the beginning is Pakistan. But Pakistan as a nation, if you look at it, it is almost declining on every sphere. If in terms of economy, in terms of ethnic relationship, in terms of religious fundamentalism, നമ്മുടെ പോപ്പുലർ ആയിട്ടുള്ളൊരു യൂസേജ് എടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എ ഫെയിൽഡ് സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ഇൻ ഓൾ റെസ്പെക്ട്സ് എക്സെപ്റ്റ് പെർഹാപ്സ് ഇൻ മിലിറ്ററി. സോ നമ്മൾ ഇനിയും പാകിസ്ഥാന് ഫോക്കസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് നമ്മുടെ സ്ട്രാറ്റജി ഫോർമുലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യണോ, അതോ വി ആർ ബിക്കമിങ് എ കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് എ ഗ്ലോബൽ പവർ എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ നമ്മുടെ സ്ട്രാറ്റജി ഫോർമുലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യണോ?
We should formulate strategy as per who we are, and not on based upon who our enemies are. Our strategy should be to our advantage. Today, Pakistan has reached its particular level of dependency, so to speak, by going the military way, by concentrating too much on the military and not bothering about their economy. And therefore, you see where they are today. They have huge problems. They are actually down to begging for food, and that is the level where they have reached. Their foreign reserves, I believe, is down to about $2 to 3 billion US, as against us, which is nudging $600 billion. Where have we reached there today is because we have been very, very smart in deciding how much to spend on what. We have elected to spend less than 2.5% of our GDP on military, as against Pakistan, which has decided to do it at about 8 or 9%. And that's where they've got them today. I think we as a nation should do exactly what is right for us. Pakistan today is a nuisance and has been a nuisance for the last 35 to 40 years. Militarily, they are not a patch on us, but they have the ability, since they are our neighbors, to trouble us and irritate us along the border. And our lack of will to call them to task, primarily because firstly they're a nuclear power, and secondly they got the backing of China, has allowed them to sort of get more and more emboldened by our how would I put it, a more sort of a benign and sort of a easygoing stance. we have always built in, words like, friendship and, aman ki asha and so many other sort of thought processes to get over bye. That is, after all, we were together till 1947. We were part of a same large country called India, and which just got split into Pakistan and India. We believe that many of Indians who went away to Pakistan, the Mujahid, so to speak, continue to be Indian, if not in thought, but at least in body.
Do you think that such a change of heart is possible within the Pakistani establishment?
I do believe that when you starve, you start changing your ideology. That's simple. If you are down to the begging bowl and you are deciding, you don't now start seeing enemies. You look at friends only who can sort of support you and look at you. You find the Pakistanis tended to use Islam as a sort of a sword against us. They sort of tried to polarize the Islamic world against us. In the organization of Islamic nations, they kept spreading this canard that India is some sort of a threat to the existence of Islam in the world. The fact is, today we have strong, staunch Islamic nations telling Pakistan, wake up, smell the coffee, become friends with India and prosper. And that's a fact. I mean, recently I've heard press statements coming out from Saudi Arabia, coming out from the UAE, telling Pakistan, stop doing what you're doing, stop using terrorism as a state policy, join up and make this area prosper. Forget Kashmir.
And coming to the most hot topic of today is the Ukraine war. And the people say that Ukraine war is bringing a kind of a new paradigm in the global, not only in political situation, even in terms of military situation. So what is your take on this Ukraine war, sir? How do you see this whole thing? Whether the Russians are, caught, a kind of a trap, they are unable to make a sudden quick movement, or is it a strategy by the Russians? They are not making a kind of a quick end of the war or something like that. What exactly is happening in Ukraine in terms of as a defense person, how do you see it?
As a defense personnel, what is clearly obvious is there is a stalemate situation. There is this huge country, Russia, which has an overabundance of military power, but is unable to exercise its military might against a small country like Ukraine. The Ukraine obviously is now getting Western support in terms of arms and ammunition and all the other wherewithals to fight the war. But they are not being given enough to win that war. And given Russia's size, Russia's land borders with other nations and everything else which Russia has today, you must never forget that Russia produces something like 20% of the world's essential minerals, oil, and so many other capabilities, including wheat and so many other things which it does. Now, to isolate Russia in this world order is next to impossible, because then you would be saying, cut down the world requirement for these 20% of what is being produced in Russia to zero. And therefore, it will result in chaos in the world. And attempts to sanction Russia, therefore, are bound to fail. And therefore, that is exactly what we are seeing. Here you have the Western lobby trying to say that, oh, we will not touch Russia, but we will buy their oil through indirect means. And we will do all sorts of other things. But when we will talk, very, very seriously with people who are sort of buying things from Russia. But the fact is, they are themselves doing that. Now, come to the military situation, what is happening today. It's a stalemate situation. Russia has obviously tried its level best to have a quick war where it sort of overran Ukraine. Their military objectives are very clear. They wanted to overrun Ukraine and therefore, after that, dictate the way Ukraine carried out its foreign policy in future. That is not happening.
Do you think, sir, this stalemate will continue like this, or is it likely to flare up into a kind of something more sinister?
I think it will flare up once in a while, but it will then die down once again. But there will be a stalemate situation because Russia has got a huge amount of capability which it can bring to bear in future, which it is not yet sort of amalgamated and put it into the front line. This is something towards which Russia appears to be striving. The military objective is clear. They want to occupy Ukraine in the past, and today they have decided to stay at occupying what they believe to be the the Donbass region and the Crimea and all the other places which they started occupying in 2014.
So there
now
is this,
that is the situation today.
There is this big talk about the Ukraine could be a kind of a flashpoint for a third world war. Do you think that such a grim scenario is possible?
I doubt it very much. Honestly, I think most of us in the world, all over the world, are people who are aware of what the implications of a third world war would be and the sort of damage that it would do to all of us who are living in this world today. We have heard about the First World War. Some of us have lived the Second World War and are well aware of what are the sort of damage that these two wars have created on the world economy. And today, with the technology that has come about, the nuclear weapons many of us possess, we are well aware and we know exactly what would transpire if we have a third world war. Given that fact, I'm sure most of us are smart enough, most of our leadership is smart enough to know that that's going in a direction which is uncontrollable and would probably result in a huge amount of losses of human resources as well as human beings, something unheard of in the past, something which would dwarf what happened in World War I and II combined. And given that scenario, intelligent people will stay away from getting into a territory where a third world war might happen. I believe that is the way it will pan out. This will be a long drawn war. People said it will be over in a week, and now it's since almost a year, coming on to a year on this 24th of February, and it will probably continue for another 2 or 3 years until any one of the side actually attain their objectives and wants to get to peace. As it stands today, both sides have not decided that they want peace. They want to continue this war to attain the military objective which they set for themselves and their political objectives as well. And as it stands today, I foresee this to prolong and sort of taper off. It would be like some sort of an insurgency which is happening in, say, used to happen in Afghanistan for 10 years. We had the Russians and the Mujahideen, Afghans fighting with each other. This will sort of reduce to something like that. And it will continue to fester for a long time until one side or the other gives up and decides, okay, let's call it off and let us sue for peace. Till that day,
you have mentioned about these insurgencies. So India is also having a lot of internal insurgency problems. And do you think that Indian Air Force should be used there to, I mean, there are also some reports about Indian Air Force assisting in anti-Maoist operations and things like that. Is it any truth in that?
Indian Air Force has been kept out of anti-Maoist operations in the from the point of view of using weapons. But Indian Air Force has definitely been supporting logistic movement. We have provided helicopters for casualty evacuation. We have provided support to our police forces to deploy in the hinterland of India, in the area of Chhattisgarh and in Dantewada and all these places. This is an ongoing operation. And as you are well aware, we are not only towards this particular part, we are also towards modernization or improvement in that area around. We do believe that, I think, as a national policy, these people who are disgruntled would have to be probably brought on board with us and to join the country and grow with all of us. The Indian office is just a part of a political system which is elected by the people of India. And we do exactly what the government of India wants us to do. We don't do something which we think is best for us or what is best for the nation. We are told what we do, and as soldiers, we are supposed to obey exactly what our directions are from our political masters. And that's exactly what's happening. As far as Indian Air Force playing a role in these things, I think, yes, we, as a tool, as a capability of the government of India, Indian Air Force will do exactly what is told to do. And as would the Indian Army as well as the Indian Navy. Today, if what is happening in these areas, the Maoist itself is coming about primarily because of poverty and our inability of our government to establish its sovereignty in that area. The so-called stretch where tribals and people who have been denied the sort of growth which the rest of the country has enjoyed has probably got them at loggerheads with the local government there. And therefore, there is this demand to get their right due. And since they are not getting it, they are fighting. After all, they are struggling for something which they believe is theirs. And the Indian government is sort of putting its pressure there in that area to make sure that firstly it establishes its sovereignty over that area, and then lets it go from strength to strength. I mean, this is a challenge which we all face. I mean, India is, after all, such a huge country with 28 states, each state having, most of them having different languages, different cultures, different scripts. Everything is different about us. But we have decided to get together as a country and fight together or live together and prosper together. That's some challenge which we have taken for ourselves. And having taken that, we wouldn't want some part of us to decide, oh, we want to go separately, or we want to form another country. That's something which we believe is totally wrong. And given the fact that we are who we are, we have used our capabilities, our energy, our economy to stay together.
As we are nearing our conversation, would you like to say something more about your Malabar connection? Who are your relatives? Are you in touch with, I mean, we can visit Malabar frequently. What is your family connections and all?
I'm from Kannur.
Kannur.
That's right. My father is from Kannur and my mother is from Talcherry.
Okay.
My grandfather, that's from my mother's side, he was a school teacher teaching mathematics in Kadirur. Okay. Which is about 3 to 4 kilometers from Talcherry. Okay. He was also in the Madhurabhumi newspaper later as its editor in Kannur town. But my mother studied in Indian College in Kannur, in Talcherry. And at the age of 19, at the age of 18, she got married to my father, who was also in the Indian Air Force. He's from 𝗳𝗏, which is a small village halfway in between Kannur and Talcherry. And I was born a year later in the Indian Air Force. My father was a navigator. He used to fly the 𝗂𝗵𝗲 aircraft, and at that time, the Liberator as well. And in 1977, my father took premature retirement, at which stage I joined the National Defense Academy and joined the Indian Air Force. He retired, settled down at a place called Kadachira, which is another village which is close to 𝗳𝗏, very close to his own native place. Okay. He set up a factory there making nylon ropes, and he and my younger brother are, he passed away in 2004. My younger brother still runs that factory. I regularly go to Kadachira, where my mother stays all by herself. My brother is close by. He stays in Kannur itself. And we remain very close. After all, the relation between a mother and her son are very close. I come from the 𝗳𝗏 Tharwad. Okay. The 𝗳𝗏 Tharwad has had a history of having a lot of communist leaders. Okay. I'm aware of, you must be aware of AKG. Yeah. He's 𝗳𝗏 𝗃𝗏. Okay. Yeah. So what is the other post-retirement engagement you are doing, sir? I'm involved in trying to sort of, in any which way where I can sort of apply my brain. This need not be in the defense service, defense forces itself. I'm into space at this moment. I'm working closely with some satellite firms who have satellites actually in space, and they provide intelligence to whoever wants that, whichever government wants it. We do that work. I'm also helping out in trying to provide emergency medical services in some states, including Karnataka and other places where we are trying to get into that business. I'm into education, and I'm trying to do as many things as possible and try and enlighten myself and grow. As despite having retired about 3 years ago, I find that I find myself as busy as I've always been, and I think I like that. I like that feeling of being useful. I like the feeling of being able to use my brains and not let it stultify.
Thank you very much, Air Marshal 𝗵𝗲. Thank you very much for sparing so much time with you. It was a great feeling talking to you. Thank you very much. I hope we will be having more opportunities to interact with the Malabar Journal in the coming days.
Thank you, Mr. Sethunath, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.